Hello, colleagues. My name is Alexander Zelenin. I'm software engineer with more than 15 years of experience. Today we will go over schema to see how to start web developing. This schema will be about HTML, CSS. It's not about how to start, but also we'll try to explain how deep this rabbit hole is. So, plan for today will be next. We will start with the level 1. We'll see what we have here. For every brick, I will explain why this brick is important, what this brick is include is itself. We'll try to tell about some exact examples. If it will be possible, maybe we'll tell something relevant to this. Feel free to ask questions same time. So that's it. We can start. We can start by reviewing what is under every level. There is a good article, I believe so. So if you see this in recording, just go to link in description and take a look at article. There is like explanation about a lot of things. So level 1 is let me just check that video was started and everything worked fine. Yes, great, thank you. So level 1 it's just the start of everything. And you can, after level 1, you can work with on some entry type of jobs. For example, you can work as a site administrator or something like that. So you can like edit content on some sites, do it properly, do it with understanding what you're doing, like use proper fonts, proper spacings, different things, and so on. You will able to add the map to site or to include the YouTube video, things like that. Also, you will able to save your code properly. You will able to edit it with comfort, and so on. So everything starts with HTML, of course. By HTML, I mean the basic understanding of how text works, how they are written, what is attributes of text, and so on, and knowledge of just some basic text that use it for like every site, like link to something. Define some block, table, list, and so on. So I don't want to focus on HTML block itself. It's not so big, but at least I don't mean anything super deep on this block. So let's go to the top first and start with typography. Typography is about how to write text. That maybe looks very easy, but exactly this is not so easy as it looks like. In article, I had provide one example with the phone number. So we have a phone number like this, and let me just show you what happened. So we have this phone number. A couple of people ask question like why this is better than this. They looks exactly the same. The first number have non-breaking spaces, and if the page need to break the content, the words like one by one, this will be count as one word and it will be non-breakable. So you can see that the full number go to new line. but there was a space for +1. So, but it move the whole number to new line. These small things make big impact to site conversions and other things like that, since it's very important to like have such things. It's just one example of understanding what typography is, but generally it's how to make text readable, accessible, and so on. And from this we have like subtopic that initially can be skipped for the level 1. It's about fonts. If you want to skip it, just use system fonts. That's all. That's all. But if you want to learn fonts, it's about how to load new fonts, what fonts you can use, how you can fall back to another font, what is procs, what is cons by using fonts. For example, one of cons to using custom fonts is the rendering time. I think you see it on some sites when you just open some site and it's empty for a few seconds or for 1 second or something like that, and then text appear. That's because of custom fonts. There is a lot of techniques that give ability to display text, then re-render it with new font, or so it depends. There is a lot of different techniques that allow you to show custom fonts with confidence, with proper fallbacks, and so on. Also, it's possible that your font will be not loaded by some reason, and you need to have a fallback to some of default fonts that already exist on person, mobile, or computer, or whatever. And one of the problems here that probably you don't test your site with other fonts, but like if you aim for this, you should do that. So let's go for the next one. Let's go to media. Media is any graphic, video, audio, or such things. And by this topic itself, I mean that it's important to understand what type is exist, how to use them properly, what again pros and cons of using some type of media and so on. But this one is like generic one for next ones. So let's start with audio. Again, you can skip this one. Since audio video can be replaced with iframes and with third-party services. For example, instead of learning how to include video to your page, how to display player properly and so on, you can just include video from YouTube, right? But when you will need to do something more complicated with video, or it's not possible to load it from YouTube or from any other third-party service, these skills might be useful. Also, video text can be used for backgrounds of pages. I think it's pretty modern these days, pretty common these days. When you open page and on background you see that someone moving, some things happens and so on. So that's happen with custom videos, and usually this is not in YouTube but like custom player. For audio it's mostly the same, but it's like audio player, but same you can start using some SoundCloud or any other third-party service that provide you something to include to your page, to embed script or something like that. But this topic is important if you want to go to next level, to level 2. For images, the main thing is to understand what type of images right now exist, how they render in browsers, you don't need to go to super details, but just some basic understanding. Like we have raster images, which is like PNG, GIF, JPG, and so on. We have vector images, SVG, for example. Like what the difference between them, what is procs, what is cons, where different types is used, why they are used. Like the understanding of this really affect to the site size. The lower size of the page you have, the faster it will be loaded. And the difference can be really, really dramatic, like 10 times. With using the wrong type, the page can looks bad, and it will be much bigger. And some of types, for example PNG, can be optimized with special tools that help you to optimize them very well. By I will not go in details, but like it can reduce size by five times just by using this tool on the image. That's all. The quality will be the same, everything will be the same, but size will be 5 times less. So for SVG, as for me, it can be skipped on level 1 because level fun. That's a good name. I like it. So the SVG can be skipped on level 1 because it's not commonly used on the most of sites, unfortunately. This gives a lot of possibilities regarding to scaling, page scaling, since SVG scale without problems and the image looks always super clear and so on, but it also have some limitation. But as I told, it's not commonly used. On the small sites, it's mostly not used, so most probably on that level you will not meet any SVG images and so on. So let's go to next one. We have iframe. For iframe, iframe is some part of other page that you can include to your page. Maybe it's not only about iframe, it's also about embedding something. But generally is by iframe I mean displaying information from third party or maybe from our site somewhere in our page. So I will not go to some details here. I think that's enough for start for this one. So next I want to go to semantics. Semantics is understanding which tags from HTML exist, why they exist, and how they should be used properly. For example, why I need to use tags for creating lists instead of making them just with some symbols, like with dots or whatever. Why I need to use tag. After learning some semantics, you will better understanding why it better. Just as a quick explanation, if loading of site will go wrong, and for example CSS will be not loaded, that happens. This is like a rare case, but this case happens sometimes. For big sites, it's happen also maybe not so often, but if we will count like all customers, then this happens sometime. So if you use proper semantics, even CSS will be not loaded, even images will be not loaded or whatever, the site will be possible to use properly, and it will be possible to read information from this site. As an example, if Reddit will go without CSS, so like everything will be moved somewhere, but you will able to read the article itself. Will it be such disaster as not working site at all? I think no. Like you still have something. So the next topic from here is tables. By tables, I mean organizing page with tables. You can ask me like, why right now is 12:19? What you want to organize with tables? But the thing here that email letters still should be done with tables. I will go explaining this in deep a bit later. This is a bit specific skill. You anyway will need learn the tables itself, since table is common thing. But how to make sites with tables, that's a bit specific topic, but it might be useful for some cases. Hey, so far it's clear? Please write something in chat. Okay, so let's go to next. Next for us will be CSS1. A lot of people ask me why I split it by versions like CSS1, 2.1 and 3. Like, what the reason? Let's just learn version 3. CSS versions is not just version as we use it to think about them. It's like the layers of what you can do. So things exist on CSS1 is not duplicated on level 2. So it's just limiting of your scope. I did not remember exactly what it goes under every level, so let me just check my article. For CSS1, what is here, what we start with, is just fonts, color, aligning and size. Nothing else. Just using proper fonts, size of text, set the color, like set the image, for example, to the right side of the page or to the left side of the page, and that's all. Nothing else. Like, why I need to start with that? Because you can use this even without making any sites. If you are some site administrator, or you have like you use it just occasionally just to know how to make text black or white, or set the green background, or change font to different one, it's useful. Okay, so with CSS1 that's done. Let's go with CSS 2.1. CSS 2.1 is about blocks behavior, positioning and design start here. So CSS version 1 is more about like typography. It's very related. It's just some simple basic things. With CSS 2, we start thinking about how our blocks should looks like, how they interact with each other, how they combine with each other, and so on. Yep. And with CSS2, we also can apply like really great design. With CSS1, it's mostly will be just adjusting some text, and that's all. But with CSS2, we can make modern sites without a problem. You don't even need to learn CSS3 to make like anything. Okay, so from this, we go to left again. We have blocks. There was a lot of question related to blocks again, but I just want to show that I have explained everything here. So blocks is about how to split some page to different blocks and implement them independently. So for example, if we will take a look at Reddit site, I especially zoom out a bit, we will able to define different blocks here. Some of them like clearly visible. So let me just make a screenshot. Like this, and draw a bit. So for example, I'm like with experience, I can see, you also can see this very clearly. We have like blocks like this, okay? They are clearly separated. You can also see like this big block of text. This also consists of some small sub blocks, like this one. These blocks can be implemented separately from each other. They can be, so I think you understand the idea. So just to split page to some blocks and to work with them independently. The second thing here is about the tag called div and CSS display block. So how to show this block, how to combine them, how to align them on page, and so on. That's it. After you come to this part, you will able to make anything. Other things after this mostly goes to simplify something or for better collaboration with other developers. So, okay, let's go from CSS 2.1 to selectors. Selectors is a very important topic, and it's very useful to know CSS selectors if you even do some backend job, because if you, for example, will want to parse some other site to extract some information, most probably you will have deal with selectors, because this is easiest and best way right now to extract some information from pages. So with selectors, you define what elements should be, to what elements your rules should be applied. So you learn CSS, you learn how to set the font larger, you learn how to set red color or whatever, and by selectors you can define what on page should looks like that. If I have like a lot of similar elements, for example, we have some links with blue color and so on, they can be selected with selectors. Okay, so let's go for naming then. For naming, do I have some explanation here? No, I don't have any explanation here, but okay. So initially, when you making HTML CSS classes to apply some styles, you give them names, and naming is about give proper names. So like example of bad name is left block, like left block. Okay, on your site it's or let's name it right block. So for example, the right block. This is bad name because you will like in some point of time in future these blocks can go to left, or in another page it will be on bottom or something like that, and this name will not represent anything. Will be much better to, for example, name this block exactly like this, like community details, advertisement, like welcome, and so on. So if you give a proper names, you will able to maintain your code easily in future when it will change. If this is super small site with just one page, it will not give that effect. But if this site is developed by hundreds of developers and they interact with each other, you will be not able to suffer this without proper naming. Okay, what we also have here. Let's go to browsers and DevTools. So by first of all, every client of internet uses some browser. We have Firefox, Chrome, and mostly that's it. No, originally we also have Safari that commonly used on iDevices. We also have different browsers based on Chromium. We also have some old browsers like don't want to have no idea, nothing come to my mind, sorry. We have Edge, and what is interesting here that a lot of people forgot about is browser in some devices like TV. Like if someone will go to your site from TV, what will happen? Do you want to your site be accessible from TV? Maybe. If you want this, so better to know what specific we have here and so on. So it's just about like some common knowledge related to browsers itself. And the second topic that can be also skipped for level 1 because it's important, but on level 1 you must probably will be able to deal without it. So it's development tools. With these development tools, so let me show you example. So I can open development tools and I can click on some element, see what is inside here, what's the size of this element, what classes here are used, and so on. So I will able to inspect what is happening and to fix some problem. So I will not also to spend too much time here. If you want to me explain to something deeper, just let me know. So let's go to another skills. Another is code editors. Like why I put separate thing for code editors? First of all, because people who are new here, who are new in development, have no idea what it is. Why I need code editor, why I cannot do this in just Notepad. The thing that you can do this in Notepad, and that's not a problem, at least for start. Code editors just provide some sugar to make it easier, provide some colorization of text, and that's all. Mostly that's enough for start level. And I have just 2 examples here. You can like add any code editors or learn any of them that you want. I just add 2 common ones. I add the Notepad++ as good example of code editor that can easily work with big files. For example, if you will have file with 10 gigabytes of text, it might be not a page, of course, not a page, but some logs or something like that, and you might want to open this, and like a lot of editors just cannot do this at all, and Notepad++ can do this. Sublime from some point of view also can do this, and it's extendable, so you can add some additional plugins, you can set everything as you like to. So I will also not spend too much time here, so let's go for version control system. I think that version control system is crucial to learn from start, at least some basic concepts. To learn all of this, it might took just 1 day, just to learn, to play a bit, and so on. So version control systems will help you to save your code. Like what? The idea here that even you will do some changes later on, you will able to get back to previous version of your code and like use it for something else, or like revert back to better version. If you lose something or whatever, everything will be stored in version control system. The most used system right now is called Git, and I highly recommend to learn exactly Git. It will be good choice. And as additional, it's optional, but I recommend to learn at least one of them. It's two portals, one called GitHub, another called Bitbucket. This is most popular services for for saving Git repositories, since version control should be saved on another machine. Otherwise, if, for example, your disk will be broken, you will lose everything. But with these services, like all your code will be accessible to you from any machine, anywhere, and so on. So just take a look at any of them, try to use, and that's all. And we have some basic things related to Git. Checkout, commit, push, pull. Checkout is to download code from like internet, from external repository. Commit is to save your changes on your local machine. Push is to send your changes to the server. So mostly that's all. So just few simple commands, and you don't need to learn the commands exactly. Right now there is a lot of tools like Tortoise Git that help you to do it with your mouse. So you just click on element and like commit. That's all. And you have like buttons, text, and everything. You don't need to learn anything specific. It's just software with interface. And another thing is stash. Stash helps to temporarily save something. So you had work with something, had work, then you, okay, I need to work with on something else. You can stash your changes to get back to them later. So they will be stashed, and then you can recover them. Okay. And also I put to level 1 10 works. It's not like you need to do 10 works to go to next level. No, it's just some referer for better understanding. So you can have just one work and you can be on level 3. That's possible, but just to have some referer generally. This represents, because most often you start with some simple sites, some simple things, and like it cannot be shown with just one portal. So that's why I display these numbers. So we're done with level 1. I hope everything clear. Just to remind that only green and red things are mandatory for level 1. The yellow things can be skipped for now, and blue one is optional at all, so you can just skip them. Okay, nice. We can go now to level 2. And we will start with the same part where we have HTML. So let's start, I think, with advanced selectors. What is advanced selectors? Why I split them in two parts? Why we have simple selectors and advanced one? With simple selectors, generally we select just one element with a super simple direct rule, like select paragraph or select header, something like that. With advanced rule, we do some kind of magic. For example, select the first paragraph after header, or select third paragraph after header, or select first letter in the line, or something like that. So you can write very complicated rules that affect combination of elements. So just selector target to one element, but advanced selectors target two element combinations. That's the idea. With this, it's possible to create really great sites that have a lot of elements that combining with each other. Okay, so let's go for CSS3. What we have under CSS3 is gradients, shadows, surrounding, filters, transformations, and so on. So mostly CSS3 is about design something, but there is few important additional things regarding to making layout itself. Is Flexbox and grids. So on CSS3 we will able to make rounding corners, we will able to set shadows under elements, and a lot of fancy stuff that very useful for like some designs. Also animations is here. And let's go with Flexbox. What is Flexbox? Flexbox is about distributing page content on the screen. Previously, we had worked with blocks, but with Flexbox, under this, we had worked with just blocks, independent blocks. But with Flexbox, we are working with the screen itself. And we can define a couple of blocks and define how they should spread themselves on the page. For example, if we make two columns here, like I close paint, okay. Like the first one with content and right one with menu. We can tell that we have like two columns, and first one should took 80% of space and second one should took like 20% of space, and they should distribute with some spacing between each other and so on. So we can describe this with Flexbox. It's very useful. It reusable. They combining with each other very easily and much easier to maintain than just block system. But it requires some skills. Okay, what I mean by grids, like most of the sites, have some kind of grids. Like if I will zoom out, you can see that we have some columns, some rows, something like that. But like when I zoom in, they still exist. The columns still exist, but they just change the size and so on. So grids is about maintaining some sizes on the page. There is some frameworks. One of examples is Flexbox Grid. You can go for any of framework. It doesn't matter which one you will learn or which one you will overview. It's good just to have just one of them, just to overview at least one of them. So this will help to maintain your sites looks professionally and all things well aligned on the page. Okay, next, animations. We can do animations with CSS. Really nice animations. We can animate a lot of things. I see once someone make a first level from Mario with just CSS animations, just for fun. Why not? So it was as an example of how powerful they are. So I don't know what to tell anything else about animations. They are most efficient than JavaScript ones. That's important thing. They work much faster than JavaScript ones. So if you can do animation with CSS, that's preferable than making it with JavaScript. Okay. Let's go for frameworks. Did I mention something for frameworks? Let me just check. Frameworks, okay. The most common thing is like why these frameworks exist. When you start observing any of framework, it doesn't matter which language, JavaScript, Python, C++, whatever. Read the reason why they was built. And with understanding of reason why this framework was built, you will better understand what you need, what you can expect from it. So generally frameworks is just set of some tools that help you to do things faster. It's just some common things that widely used for a lot of services or whatever. One of them is Twitter Bootstrap, very common thing. I recommend to at least have overview on that one. It's very useful to make some internal tools, for example, when you don't need some fancy design, but you want to make your site still looks good enough. So with Twitter Bootstrap, you can easily do this. You will don't need to write CSS. You will use like ready CSS and just apply rules where you need. That's all. Next topic will be regarding email letters. As I mentioned previously, email letters have really it's really separate from just sites. The reason for this is the email letters is displaying not just inside browser, but inside of other site. So, for example, if we looking for Gmail, in Gmail we have some interface, and this letter will be injected in this interface. And owners of such portals do a lot of work to clean your letter from things that can break site, because they want to maintain the same design for like all the time. So we have a lot of different limitations regarding to what we can use in the letters. We cannot use Flexboxes, we cannot use advanced selectors. Most of all, we cannot use CSS. We can use only maybe CSS1 or something like that, or just simple things from CSS2, but nothing else. And only few tags are available in email letters and so on. Yes, you can tell like, oh, in my program it looks good, but a lot of people use different email systems. They display mails differently. A lot of people read it from mobiles. So there is a lot of consumers of these emails, and all of them can show email differently. But if you follow some rules, everywhere it will look similar. And that's why tables still exist. And one of frameworks that you can see it come from your letters and frameworks called Foundation. It helps to build letters easily. So if you go to make email letters very often, it will be good to learn some framework related to this. It will save a lot of time for you. Okay. Let's see what we have here next. Let's go for Css Preprocessors. Css Preprocessors make with your CSS some magic to give you just a few tools to use CSS as some programming language with some variables, cycles, loops, mixins and other things that can be reused for a couple of times, that easily to maintain and so on. I recommend to take a look at least of 2 of them. You don't need to learn them, but at least to take a look and find out which one you like more and try to play with it for some time. But do this only after you learn CSS. It's not reasonable to do it before, or otherwise you will just broke the all flow in your mind and so on. I recommend to take a look at Sass and Stylus. They look a bit different. Sass looks more closer to CSS itself, and it's like compatible with CSS. And Stylus look differently. It saves a lot of space. It requires some rules, but my personal preference is Stylus. So from like all Css preprocessors, I like this one. Okay. Next we can go. Also, I said that Css preprocessors as can be skipped for now. You will need to learn this if you want to go to level 3, but for now you can ignore this. Next thing is media queries. First of all, you also can ignore this until level 3. So media queries will help you to make your site looks differently on different devices, different screen sizes, different conditions. For example, if you want to have print version of your site, you also can do this with media queries. So media queries is how to provide the proper CSS to page depending on some conditions. So you will need to learn what condition exists and so on. I will go to mobile a bit later. Let me just overview a bit what we have here. We have a lot of things here, a lot of things. Okay. So, let me start with mobile to end up with this part. With mobile systems, you will need to learn what kind of mobile systems exist, how they see web, how they can interact with page, because they doesn't have a cursor, they doesn't have mouse scroll, they cannot do right click. They can do on some devices and so on, but the thing here that we have some kind of limitation, and on this part it's important to know what limitation we have and how we can use them, how what we can do with this limitation. Okay, now I will go to template engines. It comes from HTML because it's very related. So template engines is about how to write your HTML to be reusable. For example, I had created some header. I want to use it on every page. I don't want to repeat myself again and again to inserting the same code. I will use some template engine. As an example of what template engine should be learned here, I highly recommend to take a look at two ones, the handlebars and Jade or Pug. It's the same, it's just they splitting in two ones, two template engines. So it will help you to interact with the front-end engineers. It will help you to create reusable components and so on. And also we have web components. Honestly, I had not used web components yet. I had read only about them, and I'm not sure is it widely used right now or not, but I recommend to have overview on them also. So from template engines, we have two ways. One of them is goes to PHP, that is also can be skipped for now. That's not too important. And one of template engines related to PHP is Smarty. Honestly, I'm not sure is it used right now or not, because I had not worked with PHP for a long time. So just take one from my mind. There is a question in chat. How is a template engine different from copying and pasting components from previous project? It depends how you organize components in previous project. For example, if you have 100 pages on your site and every of these pages have header, it's same header on every page, and you don't want to copy paste them 100 times. So you just implement some block called header, and everywhere where you need to use header, you just insert one thing called header, and header appears here. So when you copy component from previous project, it may be that you copying exactly template, some kind of template. It's not just a page, not just a part of HTML. It's something more than just HTML. There can be some placeholders where like should name goes. For example, we have header here, and I have my nickname on the right top, like Zaf39. Every person have different name here. Like for example, you have David Lin here instead of my nickname. We have different karma or whatever. So instead of writing exact nickname or exact thing, we just write some placeholder, and nickname will appear here, and so on. So template engines help to automate some things. With just HTML, you are limited with static things. With template engines, you can make things looks different for different users, for different customers, and so on. I hope I answered to your question. If not, please mention. So I recommend to learn a bit of syntax of PHP, since it's really common. Yes, a lot of people told me that why you ask people to learn PHP. The reason of that on that level you will able to earn money with that. That's all. So there is a lot of jobs, maybe they are not so well paid in USA, for example. But if you are not in USA and you work remotely, the knowledge of PHP will give you ability to start earn some money already at this point, and it will be like good money, depending on region, of course. So will be good to learn some template engine that used in PHP, just to have a better sense what is happening here. So, and we have Brick CMS here, content management systems. There is a lot of ready content management systems. One of common ones is WordPress. It's just one of example. You can learn any of them. At this point, it's good to know why they exist, what type of them exist, like for what they're used, like blogs, internet shops, some news portals, and so on, and be able to change design on them as you want. There is a lot of remote jobs for this type of work, to change design or add something to some of Reddit CMS. So at least you will have work for next 10 years. Okay, let's go next. JavaScript. From some point of view, we can tell that using handlebars and Jade already require some knowledge on JavaScript, but it's not like that. If you will have someone in your team who knew JavaScript well and will able to provide you all necessary information, just knowledge of the template engines will be enough until this. So JavaScript is very useful to add some dynamic things on your pages, like some calculators, forms, and so on. So with that, you will able to make some interaction with customer. jQuery is not there yet, so I recommend to learn some common library with components. What I mean by this? jQuery is not just to make some queries or write anything. There is a thing called jQuery UI with dozens of UI components, like different drop-downs, different sliders, different galleries, and so on. So you can just take a look at them, and if it will be required, you will able to utilize them. So instead of making your own gallery, you just get some gallery build it for jQuery and use them. And it will took maybe 1 hour for you to learn exactly specific part for you. So it's easy, fast, and will like increase your level a bit. Yes, you will be you maybe will not able to create something from scratch at this moment, but you will able to use like well-designed components. Why not? It very useful for some small sites. Okay, let's go next. We have Node.js. Node.js is JavaScript on backend, like on server side. I recommend to learn just some basics here, like how to start a Node.js server and serve some static files or something like that. So it will be just simple static files or something. I don't want to repeat myself. So, and main thing that why you need to learn it a bit is build systems. Well, with build systems, you will able to assemble your sites from the templates you had built previously. With Css Preprocessors, where it was, yeah. So Css Preprocessor should be translated to CSS. Some templates should be translated to HTML, and so on. So that can be done with different build systems. The common one is Grunt, Gulp, and Webpack. Some of them are not maintained. I'll not remember which one exactly, but anyway, they looks a bit different, and I recommend to have overview on all of them, since on some conditions it might be useful to new different ones, and different companies use different build systems, so at some point of view you will learn all of them. Okay. Let's go to optimization. Optimization, it like have different start because it require you to know a lot of specific things, like how browser works, how information transferred from server to the client, how the site interact with search engines, and so on. So a lot of different things that make your site work like blazingly fast and searchable, like to get better places on search engines and so on. There is a lot of techniques related to that optimizations, but generally we can like split it into next steps. First step is loading, so it's how fast information was loaded from the server. And second one, there is exactly like more steps for every of them, and they should be handled differently, but just to not make it overcomplicated, is paint step. Like we download everything, we need to show it to the customer. It's remember a thing that I had told about fonts, about custom fonts, when you have like white page. This bad experience when someone have white page when everything is loaded. So this kind of optimization. And SEO is not just to use proper words, but how to mark your HTML properly to help search engines to find everything. So that's all of this is big topics. Maybe later on some separate video I will explain something if it will be interesting. Okay, let's go next. Polyfills. Polyfills is some scripts that help you to use new features from language, from JavaScript, from CSS, from HTML that support for modern browsers already support, but old browser might not support yet. But there might be requirement that you still need to support old browsers. It happens. Like it might be important for business to support some browsers. It might be region specific. Like in some regions, one browser is commonly used in other ones. But if you want to use like the all technologies that are available, it's really good to take a look at polyfills and see what you can do with that. Because it's super easy to use them. After you had learned Css Preprocessors and template engines, polyfills will look like super magic things that just works. That's really nice. So next things is how to build your site cross-platform. By cross-platform, again, I mean not just only Windows, Mac, iOS, or whatever, but also how it will look on PlayStation, how your site will look like on just reader, like Kindle, how your site will look like on TV, and so on. So how to make it useful on different platforms. Then cross-browser. It's very related, and I think I already mentioned this one. How your site will display in Firefox, in Chrome, how it will display on some Opera Mobile or something like that. So it's good to know which browsers exist and how to make your site works well with all of them, or at least to have understanding which customers will able to see your sites, and for example later on in statistics you will able to see how many money you lose in case of your site doesn't work for this platform. There is very useful site called Can I Use. Like you can type on this site any tag, any CSS property, and see which browsers support this. So just recommend to take a look at this one. Okay. Also, I want to go now for these two things: web accessibility and regional differences, because they are related. I add them later on, so they maybe not on proper place. So Web accessibility is crucial if you're like a good person and want to make your site accessible by disabled people. If someone blind, he still want to able to read sites and so on. So how you need to organize your site that way that blind people will able to consume information from it. How you need to make site if not just blind but like people with bad vision will able to read, find buttons and so on. So it's a bit separated topic that need to go in some specific areas and learn what happens in them, but it's very important to like make work better. And regional differences in different regions, sites might looks different, not because just they want to, but because otherwise customers don't understand what is happening. One of easiest examples is right to left text. So we used to read from left to right, but it's often in Arabic countries, for example, that text go from right to left, and like all interface should be like mirrored or something like that. And it's not as easy like, okay, I will make it to goes from right to left. I have CSS property. No, there is a lot of things when, for example, right to left, combine it with left to right. If you have some name like Microsoft inside of right to left text, it should be written left to right. And this combination is very hard to maintain, to make looks good enough so people will able to read them and so on. So it's not the thing that you will like learn super quick. It will just it think that good to know that when you will go to work in different region in different country, you may face some problem that you are just not expect at all. Okay, I think we had overview of main thing here, and now we can go for code style. So code style is like next level of naming. It's not just how you name things, but how they organize, how you combine different styles with each other, how you add spacing between them and so on. There is different tools to maintain code style. These tools usually called linters. Sorry. And there is a lot of different code styles. You may find the one that suits for you. I highly recommend to take a look at Airbnb code style. For JavaScript mostly, but they also have some general recommendation, and this well explained code style. Okay, but in the code style is super important if you work not alone. If even you work with just one another developers, you should be able to follow some code style or to define one. The next three things is like concepts. There is much more concept than just these three ones. There is a lot of different concepts, but I mentioned these ones because they directly related to HTML and CSS, so they can be directly used, and it's maybe not that easy, but you will able to understand how you can apply knowledge from them. So it's like some concepts, paradigms. Sorry. some concepts that you can apply to everyday work to make it simpler, make it maintainable, easier, and so on. And a lot of them leads you to thing called OCSS. It's optional. I think I mark it as optional, right? The blue one. Yeah, blue one is optional. Yep. So it's not mandatory to learn exactly OCSS. There is a lot of different, not standards, but like approaches how to make CSS. The good example of CSS is Twitter Bootstrap. So with OCSS, you will able to create reusable styles for big systems that will be easy to reuse by a lot of developers on different projects and so on. Okay. Next thing here is documentation. For any developer, it's very important to be able to write documentation of what you are doing and how to maintain things you have created. Without this documentation, no one will able to support your system, because if something goes wrong, if the names is unclear, what you will do? So you need to learn how to explain things related to code. That's what I mean here. And one of like useful tools that can be used for documentation, it Markdown. It's also widely used on different sites, include Reddit, for example. It's just good way to write some comments that will be readable from code editors or from like external tool. Okay, next thing is planning. Let me take a look what I had mentioned here for planning. Yep. It's how to estimate time by just look on image. So someone sent you photo of some site and ask you how much it will cost. And you take a look at this and see like, okay, header will took 2 hours, the right menu will took 4 hours, the main content things took 4 hours, so I will able to do it under 1 day. Let's multiply this by 2 just for reason of something goes, something bad will happen. So, and you tell like it will took 2 days. So it will good to have some kind of sense. Of course, to have this kind of sense, you will need to have some experience. But earlier you start to trying to estimate, the better estimation you will have later on. The next skill, maybe it's not skill, but like topic, it's decomposition. Decomposition is about breaking big task to smallest one. So if someone came to you and asked, hey, can you make an online shop for me? And you'll start thinking, okay, online shop, I need to find the proper CMS, I need to find proper templates for it, I need to redesign it, this will have that many pages, on these pages I will need to change this and this. So after this you will have, instead of one big task with what you have no idea what to do, you will have dozens of small tasks that like you can go over them, and every of them should be solved easily enough. And next thing is setting goals. So after you decompose some big task, you can set exact goals, exact timings, explain what need to be done under this goal, and so on. So it might be useful if you work not alone, but with some other developers. So anyone will able to start working and to help you with make work done. Okay, I hope that's clear. So let's go from right to left then. Only a few things are left. So we have code editors, and we had observed just two simple ones. The next step is IDE. IDE is more complex tools, and as for me, it's optional to use IDE. Personally, I run IDE only for some heavy work, and generally speaking, it's not just a thing that, okay, I use WebStorm, I use IDE. No, you don't know IDE if you are just using WebStorm. There is thousands of functions that are related to IDE, and to learn them it could took a lot of time. To learn IDE it could took just 1 month of your time just by learning things that IDE can do and can optimize some steps. And it will be paid off later on, because you can use IDE with any programming language, mostly. That's a good thing. But to use it in full power, you will need to invest a lot of time. But again, it will be paid off. I provide two examples of IDE, VS Code and WebStorm. VS Code is similar to Sublime Text, so it's come with just a few things built in, and other things you can install with plugins very easily with just a few clicks and so on, and like create a system that will work for you. I personally still prefer Sublime Text because it's much faster. So much faster than VS Code, WebStorm, and so on. So when I run Sublime Text, it's run instantly. When I run VS Code, it took maybe 2 seconds to run. WebStorm, I don't want to speak about that. So it will be good at least to try some of them, because they provide some useful features, like better code highlighting, better going through different functions, some tools for refactoring and so on. But as for me, they are useful only if you invest some time to learn them. Okay, so let's go next to version control system, and now we have branching. In branching, I mean ability to create new branching to maintain them. Branches is like different version of something. So for example, someone asks you to change the button on some page to red button. You create a branch called page with red button. You change it to red. You send it to someone, and he will able to observe that everything is fine and so on. But if anything will goes wrong, you still have other branch with normal button. So you will able to select the proper one. So you can have like same time separate version of same thing. Related to this code is merge. By merge, I mean to combine different branches with similar changes. So if some of them have conflicts, you should be able to resolve these conflicts and create the normal version that like work fine. And one of optional skills is to use fetch rebase here. It might be useful when you're working alone on some branch for a long time and you need to update from previous branch to get some new things and don't want to mess up with your changes. Okay. Next thing that we have here is graphic editors. We have two types of graphic editors. It's raster and vector, the same as graphic formats we have. I recommend to meet both of them since both of them are important. And the exact editors I recommend to learn, it depends on the operating system you use. But I highly recommend to take a look at Photoshop, since there is still a lot of mockups done in Photoshop and a lot of designers still work in Photoshop. Another one is Figma. It's a cross-platform one. It's a vector editor that provides very useful things for creating sites. For example, you can copy some CSS from it like directly, and it's very useful. The main difference between raster and vector that in vector editors you will able to resize some elements and see how they behave when the screen size is different, for example. Another good example of vector editor is Sketch or Zeppelin. It's very common tool. So if you're working on macOS, so take a look at Sketch. But I also recommend to review Figma also. So I also add a few others, but you can like choose any editors, but just to have overview of some vector and raster editors. So at the end of level 2, you will have about 50 different works. Just a referer. So I think we go through everything on level 2. Let's go to level 3. Nice. So let's start from the main flow. We have adaptive design here. Adaptive design is combination from everything you had before this moment. So you able to make sites for mobiles. You're able to make sites for PC. You're able to make sites for white screens, like and so on. For tablets. So with adaptive, you will able to make sites for all of them same time, and that's important moment that the site same page should looks good on all devices, on all screen sizes, and so on. Okay, and then we can go to optimizations and take a look at the graceful degradation and progressive enchantment. Let me just take a look. Okay, it doesn't explain anything. So graceful degradation, progressive enchantment is like how page should behave if it's not possible to display something, or how it should behave if we have some additional features, and so on. It might be not so big topic by itself, but it requires a lot of practice to understand how better to utilize it. Okay. So another thing here I have under PHP and CMS is WordPress. It might be any of CMS, not exactly WordPress. I put WordPress because if you go to any site like Upwork.com and type WordPress, you will find like 5,000 of remote jobs. So there is a lot of jobs for WordPress, but a lot of works for other type of CMS, and it might be also very related to your region, what is happening in your region, what is commonly used, and so on. So like just have some overview and choose the proper tool for you. Okay, then we go to branching, like under version control. There is different approaches how to use branches, how to name them, how to merge them, how to work with other developers, and so on. One of flows called Git flow. Personally, I like this one more than other ones. It works really good for me. So I recommend to take a look at this one, but you also can take a look at other type of branching models, for example, trunk-based development, which also good. But the idea here that you need to learn at least one of them. Okay. And for, again, naming and styles, I recommend to learn BEM, Block Element Model. Personally, for me, I think that is one of best naming systems for big companies that help to make reusable components that not interfere with each other. So you can easily insert other widgets from other pages to a page from your team. And doesn't worry that something will broken. Okay, and like at the end of not at the end, but at this moment you will have about 100 works. Level 3 might looks very small, but just want to mention that at level 3 you also need to learn everything that was yellow on the previous one. So on previous one you was able to skip a lot of things, but right now on level 3 you need to learn all of them. So at level 3 you know everything that is above this line and including this one. Maybe you don't know about exact tools that describe it here, but at least have some overview and so on. So if you have some questions, that's good time to ask them now. And thank you for watching. Please subscribe, set like, and see you on some next stream or next video. I will wait for 1 more minute for questions, and if there will be no, I will end up. Thank you, David. If this video goes well, I maybe will create something similar for some specific topics or like different languages, different technologies, and so on. Okay, thank you for everyone. One more time, please set likes. That's really help to maintain channel. Have a nice day.